Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the numerology of the death of Tim Russert, who was the longest running host of NBC's Meet the Press, which to this date is the longest running show in television history. The death of Tim Russert led to a lot of questions from a lot of different people, primarily the alternative news outlets to the mainstream, many of which theorized that perhaps Tim Russert was murdered. Now, in the mainstream media, you're not really ever going to find anybody asking relevant questions of these politicians, as they're all pretty much in on the game, and no one on television is going to expose that to the general public. However, very few people traverse those waters quite like Tim Russert did. And this really came to light in the year 2004 during that year's presidential election campaign, in which Tim Russert asked these questions of both George W. Bush, the Republican candidate, and his opponent, John Kerry, who was the Democratic nominee that year. Let's take a listen.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy.
Sorry, I messed up the volume. I messed up the volume on that, guys. Let me do that over.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number
of it.
322.
First of all, he's not the nominee, and look, I look
Are
forward.
you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction.
All right, that's pretty much it that we get there. So he asks these two questions of these presidential candidates, just trying to hint the American public to the existence of these secret societies. And then about 4 years later, during the next election cycle in the year 2008, Tim Russert passes away. And it's said that he had collapsed around 1:30 in the afternoon, dying a little less than an hour later. And when you're talking about the language of Gematria and numerology, very few deaths appear to show the relevance of this code, quite like this one. So let's get into it. You heard Russert mention the number 322 to both candidates. That's the number that appears on the emblem for the Skull and Bones Secret Society out of Yale University. The inverse of the number 322 is 223. Notice how in the alphabetic order, skull and crossbones sums to 223. This cipher assigning a number to each letter relative to its position in the alphabet, 1 through 26. Skull and Bones is a Masonic fraternity. Notice how Masonic sums to 223 in Jewish or Latin Gematria, the other key cipher I teach on this channel. This cipher is structured very similarly to English extended Gematria. You'll see English uses the current 26-letter alphabetic order. In English Gematria, Tim Russert's full name, Timothy John Russert, sums to 2,230, which in numerology represents the number 223. He was born on May 7th of 1950 and died on June 13th, 2008. This means that on the date of his death, he was a span of 21,223 days old. And then when you look up the details of his death, you find that he arrived at the hospital at 2:23 p.m., which is the time that he was pronounced dead. This, even though it's on Wikipedia, it is sourced from a mainstream article, USA Today. If you dig in this, you'll see the 2:23 time indeed reported. There's more coding in the times here that we see. So, the District of Columbia Fire and Rescue Service received a call from NBC at 1:40 p.m. Check out how Skull and Bones equals 140 in the reverse alphabetic order, this being the cipher where Z is 1 all the way through A as 26. This call was made about 10 minutes after he collapsed. The time given for that collapse is 1:30. In the alphabetic order, Skull and Bones equals 130 with the ampersand. 130 is also the ordinal value of the phrase human sacrifice. Tim Russert's first appearance on Meet the Press occurred on December 8th of 1991. This was a date with primary numerology of 130. The number 130 represents the number 13 in numerology. 13 is the sixth prime number. Tim Russert died on the date 6/13. Furthermore, the 13th prime number is 41. And in our standard reduction method, Skull and Bones equals 41. So in 2004, he questions Kerry and Bush on their involvement in Skull and Bones, and then all of the numbers in the Gematria of Skull and Bones appear in his death. Pretty strange. Also worth pointing out that these questions were asked of George Bush and John Kerry in the year 2004. And check out how Timothy John Russert equals 2040 in Jewish Gematria, which is a rearrangement of the digits in 2004. On this channel, I talk about the Eclipse Crucifixion Code. And the reason I do this is because in the New Testament, we have the story of Jesus being crucified in the four Gospels. 3 of the 4 Gospels describe darkness falling over the sky in the middle of the day during the crucifixion, an event which is very similar to an eclipse. And Jesus is said to have been crucified at the age of 33, which is the Gematria value of eclipse. In fact, crucifixion of Jesus Christ sums to 303 in ordinal. Now check out Jewish Gematria. Crucifixion of Jesus Christ equals 2040. Remember, this is the same as Timothy John Russert, 2040. I want you to notice how the name Russert has an ordinal value of 120 and 69 in the reverse method. These are the same 2 numbers as the word eclipse, which sums to 120 and 69 in ordinal. The most recent total solar eclipse to have occurred prior to the death of Tim Russert was this one, which went over Africa and some of Eurasia back in the year 2006, the date March 29th. Notice how March 29th is the 88th day of the year. This means it leaves 277 days on the calendar. Well, if you measure from this date of this eclipse to the death of Tim Russert, you get a span of 808 days, or 2 years and 77 days. Russert's full name, Timothy John Russert, sums to 88 in reduction, and using the alphabetic order, it sums to 277. One of the most solid eclipse riddles you will ever find. The number 277 is a prime number. See here how it's the 59th prime number. Earlier on, I mentioned how Skull and Bones is a Masonic fraternity. Well, Freemasonry has gematria of 59 in the reverse reduction method. This is also the Hebrew gematria of the same word. Russert died between his 58th and 59th birthdays. Also notice how Freemasonry equals 277 when we incorporate capital letters into the equation. Furthermore, Skull and Bones equals 59 using the S exception. The word kill also has gematria of 59. Now, if we measure from Tim Russert's death to his 59th birthday, notice we get a span of exactly 47 weeks. The word killing sums to 47 with the K exception. The date on which Tim Russert died has primary numerology of 47. The Masonic compass and square, which is on the emblem surrounding this capital G, this compass, which is used to draw the circle, this compass is set to 47 degrees. Tim Russert died in Washington, D.C. Notice how D.C. sums to 47 in the reverse alphabetic order. Government, 47 in reduction. I believe it's White House that sums to 47. That's where the president lives. President equals 47. In Washington, D.C., there sits the Scottish Rite 33rd degree Masonic headquarters. Of course, the 33rd degree is said to be the highest degree of Masonry. And it's the Scottish Rite that runs our federal government and mainstream media. In the alphabetic order, Scottish Rite equals 165. Tim Russert's death fell on the 165th day of a leap year. Notice how in reduction, Scottish Rite equals 57 and 75 with the S exception. Tim Russert was born on May 7th, the date written 5-7 or 7-5. Notice how the date, May 7th, is the 127th day of the year. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry sums to 127 in the standard reduction method. Finally, I pointed out how Timothy John Russert sums to 2040, the same as Crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Again, the symbolism with the eclipse is quite simple. An eclipse represents the death of our sun, whereas the crucifixion represents the death of God's Son. Of course, God's Son sums to 93 in ordinal. Our sun is said to be 93 million miles away. The word crucifix sums to 93. It was Jesus of Nazareth, 93. 93, the number of the black sun, Saturn. Anyway, looking again at the gematria of God's Son, notice how this is 331 in Jewish gematria. Tim Russert was 3,031 weeks old on the date of his passing. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this quick history by the numbers recap on the death of Tim Russert. Thought that was a pretty solid riddle that I wanted to make sure was on the internet somewhere. All right, guys. Hope you're all doing well. We'll talk to you next time. Peace, love, and God bless. See ya!